X-Men. Get it!
Well, ho ho ho, everyone, and welcome to the Battle of the Atom Holiday Spectacular. This is your yearly episode of Battle of the Atom, where we rank all the X-Men Christmas stories from A to Z.
I'm Santa.
And I am...
Jesus?
Nope. I was going to go with the Winter Warlock from... Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which, by the way, if you guys have not watched Santa Claus is Coming to Town, no one talks about the Winter Warlock when we're talking about larger Santa canon. He just gets left out. And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Because the only Santa canon I care about is Grant Morrison's Claus, where Santa is Batman and he kills a demon by saying there are no naughty children. It's very good.
Oh,
Did you know that?
I've never heard of that before. That was a revelation to me just now.
Oh no, Grant Morrison and Dan Mora do Santa Claus Year One, the dark, gritty reboot of Santa.
Wow. That
but
sounds
it's
fun.
Good. Like it shouldn't work.
Hey,
it's very
Grant
good.
Morrison. I think it should work. I mean, he's usually pretty good.
Yeah, it's on Hoopla, which is a library app that you can get for your mobile devices. So celebrate the holidays by checking that out. Anyone, Adam, you're invited to. I will be using all of my Hooplas to continue to read Astro City, which is very good. Also not Christmas time, though.
No, but we do have some Christmas stories. We're not doing anything. None of this is Patreon requests today, correct?
It's not, and that's because it's Christmas, y'all. It's the general holiday season. But guys, the X-Men are known for being pretty waspy, so all of their holiday stories are Christmas stories, except for the Hanukkah one we covered last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're going to do some classic ones today.
We are. This is one of the most classic stories we've done in a while. I don't think we've jumped into any of the Cockrum stuff.
It's been a while since we've touched this, because I think, we did the Brood Saga. We also did that giant-sized backup thing. But you're right. This is Uncanny X-Men 98 to 100, which starts on page 1 with Merry Christmas, X-Men.
Merry Christmas, X-Men. This is fun. If everyone recalls last year where we did the story where the X-Men team up with Santa Claus.
Yeah.
The first 3 pages of this happen around that story. So this is weird. So, because what people don't always, I think, this is like the third arc.
Right.
There was Count Nefaria stuff. There was like a one issue thing with the Nagari. There was the Eric the Red stuff, and now it's this.
I think you can make a pretty good argument that this is really where it gets like X-Men, right?
This is where Claremont finds his footing on the book.
Yeah.
Cockrum's always been a very good artist, and in these 3 issues, he absolutely shines. I had forgotten how much I loved his stuff.
Oh, he is drawing the most amazing screaming faces and fight scenes. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so besides it being the Christmas time, what happens in this issue, Adam?
Well, we start off at Rockefeller Center. It's a very nice, wintry night, and we get the Sentinels attacking, which, not good for mutants. And after some Sentinels fisticuffs and a jump over to a side story with everybody's favorite Peter Corbeau.
Peter Corbeau, who's very into Edgar Rice Burroughs novels, so much so he named his boat after a character in it.
His boat is named Deja Thoris, right? Who is the Princess of Mars? Did I get that right?
I think so. I ain't read nothing of John Carter related activity. It seems just impenetrable at this point. I only know about that name because Leah Williams is writing her and I think Barbarella, I forget. It's a crossover that Leah's doing next year.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So anyway, the X-Men, most of the X-Men get imprisoned by Stephen Lang and don't realize that they're actually imprisoned in outer space.
Right.
Which is a problem.
That's a good way to end a jailbreak. It's like, oops, guys, you're in space. You've never been here before, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, the cliffhanger at the end of 98 going into 99 is awesome because we have X-Men just sort of like floating around outside of the space station. And eventually this leads to the all-new team kind of facing off against the Silver Age team. At least that's what the cover advertises.
Yeah, they're robots.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a very famous cover on Uncanny X-Men 100. It's Professor X saying, "Now we all fight," and it's the X-Men fighting the X-Men, but one of the X-Men's are robots. And it's fun, and there's a lot of good punching. There's a lot of good Sentinels blowing up and robots getting stabbed and all of that fun stuff in here. Again, Cockrum does the action scenes so very well.
Yeah, there's a really great double page spread in issue 100 of that X-Men versus X-Men fight that is just fantastic. So awesome action throughout. Like I said, there's a lot of like really great Cockrum screaming faces, which I like a lot. And actually, there's another double page spread there too of Lang kind of like shouting at the top of his lungs, and
oh yeah,
all these panels spread out around him. It still has like a tinge of Silver Age craziness to it, but it's definitely starting to transition into this classic X-Men era that we know and we love.
Yeah, it's a very fun story. Also, an important thing happens at the end of issue 100. A pretty darn important thing that affects all of continuity forever.
Well, what's interesting is that some of the X-Men have been left on Earth and need to just like sort of pop into a spaceship and fly out of the atmosphere, which I guess you can do for a reasonable amount of money.
You can do when you're friends with Super Doctor Astronaut Peter Corbeau of StarCorps, who was already having a flight and just said, "Hey, you astronauts, your dreams of going to space. Screw them. The X-Men. The X-Men have to go rescue their friends from robots."
Yes, even if Colossus is a little nervous because his brother Mikhail, disappeared in space mission.
Petey is not happy about this. He explodes his spacesuit. He's so stressed he blows up his spacesuit.
Yeah, and so you alluded to this before, but on the way back into the atmosphere, famously, Jean Grey has to sacrifice herself to save the rest of the team. And this is before we start to get into the era of the Phoenix.
And it's a very good death. Like, Jean hadn't been in this book, which is the weird thing. She was in, 94 for a couple of pages while she leaves the team.
Mm-hmm.
And she has not been around. So 98, having what's it called? Christmas with Cyclops is the first time we've really seen her since the Silver Age.
Yeah. And I remember very distinctly the X-Men Classic vignette that ties into this particular story, where it's told completely in silence. And it's her getting ready for this date. And I always loved that story. That was always my favorite of the vignettes. But just I feel like the setting of New York at Christmas at Rockefeller Center and having the Sentinels attack is such a classic X-Men moment. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. One thing that gets often forgotten is in the Silver Age, Jean and Scott weren't a couple. They both just longed for each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we get this death, and Scott's obviously distraught, but you buy into it because these 3 issues have done such a good job selling that their relationship is important to one another.
Mm-hmm.
It does such a good job of that you're like, okay, I get it. Jean sacrificing herself, just saying, hey, it's only going to take 17 minutes, only the rest of my life. It's so good.
Yeah,
and then some really cool stuff happens next.
Well, and I like that we split this. I realize that some people may harp that, like, 101 is still part of this story, but we're really getting into the start of where, really until we get to the end of Claremont's run, it really is all one story.
Right.
So
and to be clear, guys, 101 is part of a different story arc that's going to be part of our St. Patrick's Day special, but we'll get to that.
Yes, we will get there eventually.
That's not a joke, Adam. I have actually already planned our St. Patrick's Day special. We'll talk about it off air.
I believe it. I wouldn't doubt you for a second. So lots of great stuff here. I think this is like very, very classic key X-Men. This is the kind of an X-Men story that you could give to someone who's never read the book before if you wanted to get an idea of what X-Men is about. And I feel like this is a great example.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about it in terms of our list.
Yes.
We have on this list, on this show, we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but in case you're just joining us in this blessed holiday season, we rank every X-Men story in terms of best to worst. So we have 174 on our list right now. Number 1 is Uncanny X-Men, Days of Future Past. Number 2 is Astonishing X-Men Gifted. Number 3 is God Loves Man Kills. And all the way near the bottom at number 172 is NYX. 173, X-Men Phoenix Legacy of Fire. And 174, Uncanny X-Men The Draco.
Eesh.
Yeah, so kind of a mix of really good stuff and why did I have to say those words out loud again stuff, which is rough. Well, I guess the middle of the list is like...
Yeah, where are we at in the middle?
The middle of the list is like X-Men Blue Cross-Time Capers.
Yeah,
which sounds about no. Actually, I think the absolute middle of our list is the Savage Land Shi'ar story around Uncanny 275, which has been a weird sticking point for us. This is better than that, though. In fact, I think this is a very good story.
I do too. So we have some other Cockrum Claremont stuff towards the top of our list. I mentioned the Brood Saga before, and that is at number 18. And then we also have Cockrum's Nightcrawler miniseries all the way up at 15. How do you think this compares? I mean, are we talking that high in the list here?
It's not as good as Murder World at 14. It's not as good as the Cockrum Nightcrawler at 15. It's probably not as good as the Brood Saga at 18. But I think it's better than X-Men Volume 2, 1 through 3 Mutant Genesis at 25.
I do too. Right below the Brood Saga, we have Life Death 2 and Life Death 1. And then that is followed by Generation X 1 to 3. I do think this is better than the first 3 issues of Gen X. Just in terms of being like absolute classic X-Men stories that, you got to read to get with what this whole thing is about.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. I'm going to suggest splitting up the Life Deaths. Because
interesting. Hey, we haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that yet, and those have been on here for a while.
Yes,
but I think Life Death 2 is a stronger standalone story.
Okay,
it doesn't have the weird stuff that's a ROM Space Knight tie-in. I'm forgetting their names. It'll come to me.
The Dire Wraiths.
Yeah, the Dire Wraiths. Yes, thank you, Adam.
No problem.
I think this is better than Life Death.
Okay.
I think this should be the new number 20 on our list.
Let's do it. That's a great place for it.
All right. I'm going to call this Sentinel Christmas until I remember what it's actually called.
I like that. That's got a nice ring to it,
Yeah.
Sentinel Christmas. I mean, not that you ever want Sentinels to come to your Christmas party. That is a huge disappointment if you are hosting.
Yeah. But what wouldn't be a disappointment is if things that Reavers stole from you got brought back to you on Christmas in Uncanny X-Men 230, which I have written down as Australia Christmas, and it's called 'Twas the Night, actually.
Well, but it is the Australia era. We have Silvestri doing art, and this is, I've spoken on the show before about how I love this era, so this is a fun issue. We have Longshot discovering that I guess he has a power we haven't seen before called psychometry. Have we seen this before?
He's had it before, but that's one of those powers that like you only have so that you can use it as a plot device. And it only comes up when you write a plot device around it. Well, it only happens when you write yourself into a corner the first time and you're like, crap, what do I do here?
Well, when you need your character to stumble into the basement and talk to bracelets and necklaces, then it really does come in handy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, it works here. Because the X-Men are still exploring their fun new Australian town where they live that they stole from the Reavers, who stole it from someone else. The Reavers are bad, actually. And then they find a bunch of treasure, and they're like, "Hey, let's go return this on Christmas using our new silent teleporty boy, Gateway."
Who in they're not completely using him. Rogue has some really nice moments with Gateway where she's sort of befriending him.
Honestly, my favorite moments of the entire book are the scenes with Rogue and Gateway. I think there's a lot of good, touching stuff in there.
It's so interesting that you say that. I recently listened to This Week in Marvel. A couple weeks ago, they did an episode with Jordan White and then Brisson, Rosenberg, and Thompson. And Thompson actually talked about in that interview how she really wishes that she could go back and revisit, which makes sense because she's writing Rogue right now. She could go back and revisit this friendship between a Rogue and Gateway because she feels like it got left open-ended. And I was like, ooh, I would love to see that. That'd be great.
It did. Kind of everything about Gateway got left open-ended, and then he died.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So a little more difficult to revisit when the character is not around, but
Gateway's never coming back, is he?
I don't know. He is a sort of teleporter weird thing. His powers are kind of ill-defined. So
he died in Uncanny X-Force, so it was graphic.
Ugh. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I love the setup of this, though. We're sort of in between missions. Maddie Pryor is great as sort of like the man in the chair. They're running some exercises. Dazzler is, kind of dealing with her surroundings. I think Storm washes out an entire building with a flood.
Which is not a good way to wash stuff. You're going to have mold issues. You're never going to get that dry.
It seemed like a terrible idea. But the basic premise of the latter half of the book where they go and they return all of this stuff like, Secret Santas, I love it. I just think it's such a nice, almost uncharacteristic thing for this team,
I think that's the hang up for me, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
It feels a little
contrived.
Yes, it feels very contrived to me. Also, the way that Silvestri draws this treasure, there's not like 20 pieces of treasure that they have to get across the globe in a day. There's 20 billion.
That was always my hang up with the story was when Longshot stumbles onto it, it's a 2-page spread and it basically looks like gold is carpeting the entire basement of this like warehouse. There's no way it all got returned.
It looks like the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin is what it looks like.
Yes. Hey, but they didn't return all of it because Dazzler gets a really cool new motorcycle out of the deal, right?
Dazzler does get a cool motorcycle out of the deal. That part's nice. Like this is a fine story, but there are a lot of Outback stories that I would rather read than this one is, I think, where I personally land on it. It's not what I think of when I think of this era of X-Men.
Oh, see, I don't know. I feel like there's some real fun kind of team building character moments here that I really enjoy, but I'm also just a big fan of this era. So anytime that I get to see this combination of the characters interacting in this environment, I realize that this issue isn't really key. It's an in-betweener, but there is some development here that's kind of fun. And you're right. Like, is the premise contrived? The Reavers have always struck me as somewhat incompetent. So for them to have even collected all of this treasure seems a little bit, suspect.
The Reavers are just, I don't even know what to say about the Reavers.
They sure are characters that keep popping up,
I know Bonebreaker. I know Pretty Boy is one of them. And then I know like Cole and Marcone and someone else are the three relatively normal ones. But like Bonebreaker's the only one anyone cares about, right? And we don't really care about him. He just has a cool design because he's a half tank, half army cyborg.
Yeah, he's the one that was in the arcade game, right?
Exactly. That's Bonebreaker.
All right. So where's this going? We have where is the Santa is a mutant story that we did last Christmas?
That's at number 74 right now. That's a miracle a few blocks down from 34th Street.
Yes. All right. So I'm not thinking this is as good as that. We're probably going
no, because right
here.
around there is also the demon story with Kitty Pryde's Christmas. And this is not that.
No.
This isn't as good as Fall of the Mutants.
Nope. Oh, here's an interesting ceiling because you always kind of run into this as a stumbling block. Down at 92, we have Uncanny 245 Men, which is also an Aussie era story. Is this better or worse than that?
I think it's worse, but I think it's like right there.
All right.
Like I don't think this is worse than that Gold Balls issue of Uncanny X-Men 35.
Yeah. I also like this better than Childhood's End, which we reviewed recently, the new X-Men story, right?
Right. But like I like Continuities, which is just a couple up from that. I like Continuities better than this one.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna let you choose right above or right below Men.
I would put it above. I mean, just because we've got Silvestri on art here, I think he's a better visual storyteller. And I don't know. I feel like this is a really cool story from this era. So
all right.
New 92? All right.
Yes. Both New and 92 have been used as things for X-Men titles, which is weird.
All right. That's a fun one.
We got another fun one.
We sure do. What's the third story we've got here?
The third story on our list, and just to be clear, guys, we had like 10 stories on our initial list that we whittled down.
Yeah, there's a lot of X-Men Xmas.
Yeah, it's like they just released a special that had a day's worth of each. Which, by the way, guys, that Xmas special, very good. It had a lot of really good moments. Has quite possibly my favorite Glob Herman page of all time, and that's saying something.
Gosh, that really was very poetic, wasn't it?
It was so good. That page was so good. Oh my god.
There were some real gems in that holiday special. There were also some duds, but
yes, there's some big duds too. Hey, Charlemagne the God or whatever. Storm doesn't listen to your podcast, and Storm doesn't take advice from you, and maybe don't paint yourself as like smarter than Michelle Obama. Like you're a shock jock radio host, and even if you have a political bent, like dude, that's a bold thing to say about yourself in a comic book.
In a one page of a comic book.
Like that's a statement to be making, and it doesn't make you, I guess it makes you come off as someone who calls himself the God.
Yeah. But props to Chad and Chris for bringing into canon via arcade the Santa Marvel characters from the 80s and 90s house ads.
Very good. Like, it was very good.
That Jubilee Mall of Terror story was so much fun. So yeah, if you haven't picked that up, check that out. But that is not what we're covering here. What are we covering?
We are covering Generation X number 4. This is written by professional comic book writer Scott Lobdell with art by the immaculate Chris Bachalo.
Yeah, and this continues. We were talking off air about this. I think eventually we're just going to turn into a Generation X podcast because now we've done Phalanx Covenant, Gen X 1, 2, 3. Now we're doing number 4. So we're slowly working our way up through the series.
And we're going to hit another arc in like the first 10 issues by our St. Patrick's Day special. Eventually, guys, you're going to figure out what the theme is. And it's the only 3 stories with this theme. And it's bananas. Anyway, this is called Between the Cracks.
Yes. This is a story that happens at Christmas. There are Santa hats. It is snowing. However, I don't know how much of a Christmas story this is particularly.
There's elves everywhere.
Yes. The page layouts are really interesting here. Pachalo's got this sort of like wallpaper, gift wrap design going on in the background with these elves sleeping on the panels. There's trains, reindeer. It's really cool. The story itself is a lot darker than Little Elves, though.
It is. What I like about let's call it the set dressing for this. Bachelor does that until there is a big spread where the villain is throwing open the doors somewhere. Yes. And then you see all that stuff fly off the screen and it doesn't appear again.
Yeah, the elf dives off the page when the orphan maker shows up, right?
It's very good. Yeah. The orphan maker shows up. We haven't talked about the orphan maker and Nanny yet. They're bad.
They are sure interesting. And I have to say I remember them from reading individual X-Men comics growing up and not really understanding who they were. And then being amazed when I went back and did, a run from the beginning of Claremont all the way through 91 to realize that they're actually kind of significant, especially with X Factor and Inferno. I was like, oh, these guys actually are a thing.
They're not really a thing in here. The Orphan Maker does get a cool new design. That was 100% to sell an action figure.
Sure. I don't know that the last. I mean, did this come back? I don't remember.
I don't know if Orphan Makers ever came back from this. This is the last time I can remember seeing him. Wait.
Doesn't he get sick or something? Like
I don't remember.
Or is that another? I can't keep these things straight. All right. So basic premise: there is a mutant that has held his school teacher hostage. Is that? I think that's the general premise.
Yeah.
And the police have the place surrounded. Gen X comes to help solve the situation, but unfortunately, the teacher needs some kind of medication. Doesn't get it in time. Teacher doesn't make it. And it has some really, kind of sad, tragic moments here.
Yeah, and the kid, that's the thing. The kid's not a mutant. He's just deformed.
Oh, right. Yes.
Which is a weird twist on this. It's odd. All of Gen X tries to help and they can't. Well, I say all of them. There's a couple of them that get left behind at the school, and that stuff's better. There's a great moment with Husk and Emma Frost.
I was going to say, I like that scene a lot.
Which, oh my gosh. And Emma Frost's looks. I mean, Generation X Emma Frost is how everyone should look at Emma Frost, because she doesn't just wear Fredericks of Hollywood knockoff clearance rack crap. She wears fashion and clothes.
Oh, she's wearing a great sweater.
Oh, yeah.
Dress here. That's so great.
Here's the thing. She's still obviously and iconically Emma Frost, but she also looks like she's a real human.
Yes.
Who goes to the grocery store if she has to.
Yep. Yeah, it's great how we see the characters, especially in this issue, be kind of casual, right? Whether they're being wearing a Santa hat, whether they're wearing glasses. I can't compliment the artwork here enough. It is so absolutely gorgeous. It is highly detailed. Just every single detail on every single page, the body language, the panel layouts are fascinating. It's just really, really well done. And this, unfortunately, is where Gen X kind of stops for a second, and jumps right into the equally amazing Generation Next. But it is kind of a little bit disappointing that this initial run didn't get to evolve a little bit more before the crossover.
Yeah, Jubilee essentially makes some snide comments about, hey, we have to get canceled for Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
We'll be back maybe. Nope, this is the Omicron Crystal.
Yep. Yeah, and then it covers the last page, which is just a fantastic little device there. It's great. I like this issue a lot. It reminds me, and maybe we even mentioned this issue this Gen X issue when we did the new X-Men Zorn story, which has a similar premise of, police with someone holed up inside the house with either a family member or some kind of person that the cops assume is a hostage.
Who also needs medicine. Wow.
Yeah, no,
this is very much that story.
They're very similar. So I don't know if Morrison was channeling this issue when he wrote that.
But no way Grant Morrison actually read this issue. Grant Morrison pretty much stopped reading X-Men like around 200 and said, okay, I got it from here.
Yeah. But I do love, Jubilee is great in this. When she finally storms into this classroom and realizes what is going on, it's heartbreaking. It really is very effective at, pounding home how tragic this particular situation is. So much less of a Christmas story, but definitely still very Christmas themed, if you will. Right. And I like it a lot.
I like it too. It's a issue I really like. And I think that's the distinction. It's something I have fond memories of. Yes. But going back, I can see, okay, well, it's not the strongest issue out there.
Yeah, I don't think it's up to the first 3 issues in terms of world building. This is clearly, meant to be an in-between. And that's why I would have liked to have seen at least another arc or 2 before they got into Gen Next, so that we could see this team evolve and we could see Chris get to play with them a little bit more visually. Not that I'm complaining, because when we eventually get to Generation Next, it is one of my favorites of all time. It is absolutely gorgeous, as is really this. Good. So where do you think this goes on our list? We have New X-Men 127 at...
It's lower
than 28.
It's way lower than that. Okay. Where I'm kind of looking as a starting point. End of Grays is at number 65, and I think this is below that.
Okay, I think that's fair. But
I'd say it's above Battle of the Atom at 77.
Okay, well, that gives us a good window to work with. I think this is better than Gambit and the Externals at 71, which also has some really solid Jubilee stuff in the first couple issues.
That is very good.
How about House of M? Is this better than House of M?
I think this is better than House of M. I don't know if it's better than that time Captain America kind of showed up for Magneto hunting Nazis.
All right. I think that's a good ceiling for it. So, is this our new 69?
It is.
Nice.
Man, I made a point. On the internet to say, hey, we got through episode 69 of our podcast without being immature, mostly because we forgot what number we were on, but still, and you have to go, you're supposed to be the adult here. You're supposed to be the straight man, Adam. I'm supposed to be the immature guy with all the goofs, and you're just throwing off my vibe this holiday season.
You want to say it? I mean, I could throw it back to you. I could be like, and Gen X4 is our new 69. Go.
Nice.
There you go. You got to do it.
We have children. We're adults. We pay taxes. I assume I pay taxes. Adam, you do you.
Yeah, no, I pay taxes.
Taxation is theft. Anyway.
Yes, listeners, you can pay them too. You probably do it whether you want to or not. All right. That was 3. Not bad.
That is, no, it's not bad. That is it for this great holiday episode. I think it was a lot of fun. It's been a really exciting year as far as X-Men is concerned. It's been an exciting year personally for me. I've had a lot of stuff go on in my life. So it's been really fun. And Adam, it's been a really fun time getting through this year.
Yeah, no, I love doing this show. So Merry Christmas to you and yours, and to everybody who's listening. We hope you guys have a happy holiday. I know we're a little bit late for the Hanukkah, but enjoy Christmas, enjoy the New Year, Kwanzaa, whatever you like to do. Get together with people you love and enjoy each other's company.
That was a great ending, Adam. And I wish we would have already done all of the advertising and the plugging so that we could just walk out on that. Hey, Adam, what you got going on? Where can people find you?
All right, guys, you can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. New pages of Bish and Jube's Attack of the Mansion are going up every X-Men Monday at adamrec.tumblr.com. And just the day that we're recording this, I actually started a Patreon. So if you guys want to, get some insider artwork and some stuff delivered to you, behind the scenes sketches, that kind of stuff, it's at patreon.com/AdamRec. Zach, where can people find you?
People can find me online at xavierfiles.com. That is the big old website where I've got all of my stuff. I've got reviews. I've got news articles. I've got this podcast. I got whatever you want. I got it. If there's something you want that I don't have, let me know. We'll see what we can do about that. But also you can find me on Twitter at XavierFiles, where I try and be nice and positive about all sorts of X-Men things and fail spectacularly. I really want to be a nice guy, everyone. I'm trying my darndest.
I think you're doing okay, Zach.
I'm having a crisis of faith,
a hard time about that, but I don't buy it.
It's all right. Here's the thing, and we shouldn't get into this on air, but I'm already going. Guys, I read a lot of bad X-Men comics. It's kind of my hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So I talk about bad comics a lot. There's good X-Men comics, and I'm only reading these bad comics because I find some weird, perverse enjoyment out of them. Like, I'm doing this from a place of love.
Hence this show.
This show, we talked about good comics this time.
No, that's true. I didn't mean this episode. I mean, just in general.
We have been on a spiel of really bad episodes. Actually, I think the episodes themselves were great. The content we were covering, less so.
Yes, I'm still trying to figure out what a Witchblade is.
I believe it was friend of the show, Near Ravel, who's a Patreon supporter, and I'm gonna plug the Patreon crap in a second. He informed me that was not the first time Witchblade and Wolverine have met.
What?
No, there was a entire crossover event between Top Cow and Marvel.
Oh, gotta check that out.
There was a Wolverine Witchblade series in that. I still don't think these are related.
Okay, still a standalone.
I still feel like this is a standalone because
Learning
I can't
so
imagine
much.
that one ended with Wolverine getting his mind wiped and said, hey, in 7 years, you're going to get married to Witchblade. Anyway, hey, if you want to make us talk about bad comics, and trust me, they're out there, you can go over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. You go there and you can, what's it called? Oh, support this podcast. That's pretty much what that goes to at this point. It keeps the Xavier Files website running and it keeps the podcast afloat, pays for like Marvel Unlimited and for stuff and things. Everyone who both lives in the US and is a current Patreon supporter who gave me their address got something special in the mail that you should have received by now. If you haven't, you'll probably be receiving it any day now. Except for when this goes up, it's going to be Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So maybe mail is late. Who knows? But like, that's what Patreon goes towards. But what you get out of it, besides fun little gifts, is you get to make us read whatever you want. We are your puppets. At certain levels, you get to just pick all of the things for an episode and make us do very bizarre themes, like what we're covering next week. That it's my favorite theme for an episode we've done because it's so specific.
It's going to be very good.
Anyway, I think that wraps it up pretty much for this week. I think this has been good. Happy holidays, all. Merry Christmas, Adam.
Merry Christmas, Zach.
And before we leave, guys, instead of our normal outro, I did something special for you.
Oh, I'm so excited about this.
I did something special for you. It really sums up a lot of my feelings about the holidays. And you know what? I hope you survive the experience. You know Richter and Boom Boom and Forging Glob Herman, Chamber and Gambit, Cable, Nina Thurman. But do you recall The most obscure X-Men of all. Maggot, the blue-skinned X-Man, had the slugs within his gut. And if he wanted to eat, they would always take their cut. None of the other X-Men really wanted him around. They always left poor Maggot sitting there with a big frown. Then in X-Men 70, Logan came to say, Maggot, we're so full of fright, won't you eat this bomb tonight? Maggot had saved the X-Men, but they just went about their day. Maggot, the blue-skinned X-Man, would languish in obscurity. Happy holidays, everyone, from us at Battle of the Atom.